Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Just Follow Joy podcast. My name is Ariana Joy. I'm your host, and I'm a human design reader and teacher. And I am so stoked you're here today because we are doing a wine and design. And if you don't know what a wine and design is, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. I drink wine. Today, it's actually a plant botanical vodka seltzer in the flavor of strawberry mint. And this isn't a sponsorship. That would be great if it was because I would be getting money for saying this, but it's not. And to be honest, the side note, I'm not a fan of this, but I really feel like it's because of the flavor I chose. I don't know what I was expecting, but I opened it already, so down the hatch. But anyway, so we'll drink something. Sometimes we'll have a guest on and we'll talk about a topic in human design or some other fun spiritual woo-woo topic. And it's pretty laid back, it's pretty loose. But we have been doing something recently where I go over celebrity charts. And I'm so stoked because today we are going over the chart of iconic singer and diva Aretha Franklin, who's not just an iconic singer, but also an iconic generator, because we haven't covered that energy type yet. So if you don't know, we are covering all of the energy types. We've done manifesting, generator, projector, and manifester. We're doing generator, and the next one we're going to do is reflector. So grab a drink and join me as we dive into her chart. So Aretha Franklin was a pure generator. So what does that mean? That means that she was born with a lot of energy to do, create, and work, and her job really was to use that. So she was here to create more energy by doing the things she really loved. She was only supposed to do things that felt like a full hell yes, because as a generator, it was really important for her to focus on only putting her energy, her time, and her effort into what really lit her up 100%. Pouring her energy as a generator into what excited her and lit her up and what made her feel more alive is really how she tuned into that powerhouse energy of being able to like go, go, go for long periods of time. So work, tour, create all these incredible albums, belt like a motherfucker, right? And she was someone who was really meant to put in a lot of man hours into her work and her projects because she was really built for that. And she was also really built for opportunities to find her because she was very magnetic. Her aura was very magnetic and called things towards her rather than, her going out and seeking things. And she also has sacral authority. So what's funny is that guys, I swear to God, I tried, but it's hard to find famous people who fit like all of the requirements I wanted for each energy type to also have like different authorities. So all of the people we've covered so far have had emotional authority, but they've all had different emotional waves. Okay, so give me that. But Aretha Franklin is the only person that we've covered who has sacral authority. So that means that her intuition spoke to her in the moment, spoke to her immediately and in response to something. And it came in the form of a gut yes or no. So not everyone's actually ruled by their gut, but Aretha Franklin was. And the kind of yes that you'd be looking for if you have a sacral authority, by the way, is like, do I find this thing exciting? Does it fill me with energy? Do I like it? Does it feel easy? Like my energy is flowing towards this like a river? And then you get that answer right now. She was also a 2-4 profile. And if you don't know what profile is in human design, it's basically the closest thing to a personality type. It's also how we fulfill our karma in this lifetime, how we learn, how we make connections, and really gives us more insight into how we're going to be playing out our purpose. So a big thing about the 2-4 is that they're these natural geniuses who have this skill or talent. They can't explain it. They often can't teach it to other people because they don't know why they have it. And they usually don't see that they're really good at this thing, or at least not as much as somebody else would, because to the 2-4, to them, it comes so naturally. It's like, why wouldn't this come naturally to other people? You can see this in Aretha Franklin, one, because she learned piano by ear as a kid. Like she was not traditionally taught this. She literally just learned it from hearing other people, which is freaking incredible. Also, she was noticed from a very young age from her talent. So she was in her father's gospel choir, and her father recognized it in her. She actually, because she was just so good at this thing. And actually 2-4s are usually recognized for their talent like way before they see it in themselves by other people. And they're often like told, hey, you should do this thing. Why don't you? Because other people will see the gift in the 2-4, but they're like people who tend not to see themselves super well, which is fine. They just like need other people to mirror stuff back to them. As a 2-4 profile, all of her opportunities came through people she already knew or through her close circle. So when she was in her dad's gospel choir, he actually became her manager because she started singing at a really young age. And it was through people that her dad knew that she got exposed to that she eventually got a record deal, I think at Atlantic Records first. It wasn't that she like went on some TV show, like a Star Search kind of situation, or some random person noticed her. It was people that she kind of already knew or had some sort of connection with. And her incarnation cross was the right angle cross of service. So a couple things about this. First, your incarnation cross is basically your purpose in life. And a lot of people will get this kind of confused with like what career I should have, etc. But the thing about this is that it applies to every part of your life. There are so many different ways to fulfill your purpose. It doesn't just have to do with your job or your career. And it's not really cut up into categories like that when we're talking about this energetically. Secondly, though, this is the same as Gloria Steinem's, which we covered, because I didn't realize this, but they have the same birthday. Aretha Franklin was just born a year before. But also what I love is that her song Respect, which is like the song she's known for, if you know Aretha Franklin for nothing else, it's that song. It was actually used as a feminist anthem, so there's a little connection there too. There's this great quote that she has related back to her incarnation cross, which is all about using opinion and using what you see around you of how things could be perfected to make the world a better place, and really being of service to the world and the people around you. And for her, it was the people really closest to her, so her like close community. But she said, being the queen is not all about singing, and being a diva is not all about singing. It has much to do with your service to people and your social contributions to your community and your civic contributions as well. And also, we all require and want respect, man or woman, black or white. It's our basic human right. And she was also close with Martin Luther King. Like, she went on tour with him. And I think he like came to her house a couple of times. She was like, they knew each other, and she was in on the civil rights movement for sure. Like, no question about it. And she also had a defined root center, which meant that she was here to get things started. She was a momentum creator. She had a defined spleen center, which means that she got consistent hits of intuition and instinct that would direct her. And she was really meant to be someone who was rather spontaneous, honestly. And then she also had a defined sacral center, of course, because if you don't know, all generators have a defined sacral center. It's the little square in your chart that's second from the bottom. But the real reason I'm mentioning this is because she has all the same defined and undefined centers as me. So another thing that I think is really cool is that she had an undefined throat center. And your throat center is the square that is third from the top. And hers is white, meaning that it's undefined. And so she basically didn't actually create consistent voice energy. She took on an amplified voice energy from other people. So does that mean she didn't have her own voice? No, absolutely not. I have an undefined throat center and I have a very recognizable voice, but undefined throat centers are really known for being fantastic at modulating their voice. And so many of them are really fantastic speakers. For example, we covered Obama. He has an undefined throat center, and they can be fantastic singers because they're so good at shifting and controlling their voice. She also had something called active digestion, which comes from the top left arrow on her chart, which meant that daily structure would be something really helpful for her. So like having a routine would be helpful. But more importantly, I just loved this. Along with her defined root and sacral center, people like this really need to eat on a regular basis, and fasting is pretty difficult for them. And I don't recommend it. And sometimes they think that they eat too much, but really it's that they just have a very heavy engine and they need to fuel it. And so my friend Kelsey Abbott and I have talked about this before on my podcast and on her podcast too, but Kelsey has active digestion and I have passive digestion. So she needs to eat like quite a bit more than I do. And it's so funny because these people aren't necessarily like foodies, but it's really normal for them to be thinking about food a lot. Like, when is my next meal? I have a friend with active digestion, and he was like, yeah, I start thinking about my next meal pretty much right after I finish the last meal I had. Which is funny because one of the quotes I found from her actually said, it's hard when you love food, when you've done a high energy concert, a carrot is not going to work. And I was like, hell no, it's not. So she also had something called gate 16, which is in the throat center. And gate 16 is all about a dedication to honing a natural skill through enthusiastic repetition. So it's like, it is the natural skill itself, but it's more knowing that having that talent on its own is really awesome. But if we really want to make it amazing, if we want to become a master, we have to work at it. We have to put in the time, and it can really become an obsession for these people. These are the people who keep showing up no matter what their energy type, like they keep showing up with repetition and like, I will master this. I will get good at this. Right. And if they don't really get the chance to dive into their stuff and work on it, or if they don't have that thing that they like wake up for in the morning, it's kind of like, what's the point? Why am I here? What are we doing here? And it's also about seeing yourself as a channel to that gift and knowing that this isn't just your thing. Like, this is kind of impersonal and it's also transpersonal. So this is for the world. It's a gift that's been given to you and given to you to share with the world, because it's not just for them. Like, this is something that's supposed to impact the rest of the world. So it's kind of like, if they don't work on it, they're hiding their light under a bushel. And that's not what we want for these people at all. In fact, I have another quote about that. Being a singer is a natural gift. It means I'm using to the highest degree possible the gift that God gave me to use. I'm happy with that. She also had the gift of awareness of what other people need emotionally and spiritually, as well as very strong principles. People who have this in their chart, this is actually called the divorce gate, and not because they're doomed to get divorced. So if you have this in your chart, like, please know that's not what I'm saying. But basically, it's because their understanding of morality, or at least, principles, is pretty black and white, and they hold on to that pretty strongly. And if someone disappoints them around that, like, they are out. They're done. The bags are packed. Have a nice life. She also had the gift of flair and personal expression, and the gift of being a curator. So she was really good at finding what's hot or what's going to be hot and then promoting that or attracting attention to that. So she was an artist. Some people who have this in their chart, like, they're not necessarily the artist, but they are the people who curate something, almost like they're not the artist, but they're the gallery owner. But she was both the artist and the gallery owner. So she had the ability not just to be the creator, but the promoter of other people's works. And she has a couple really great examples of this. The first is the song Respect itself, because she didn't actually write that song. It was written by her friend Otis Redding, and she re-recorded it in her own way, and it just took off. And even Otis Redding was really impressed with her version. He was like, oh, she made it better. He would joke that she stole it from him, but he was like, no, she did a great job. Also, another example is Say a Little Prayer by Dionne Warwick, and Aretha Franklin covered that. Dionne Warwick was not as impressed in this situation. Let's just say that. She also had the gift of, or the gate of the fighter. And so these people, one, they're really good in clutch situations. They're great clutch players. They're great at keeping their calm during, like, very highly adrenalized situations. But also they will be a bulldog on something, like whether it's something that they believe or just something that, they're fighting for. So it's all about finding things that are worth fighting for. And these people, they are tenacious. Oh my gosh. And you saw this in Aretha Franklin, whether it was, in the fight for civil rights, or in her career, or in her diva duels with someone else named Dionne Warwick. But it's really all about, learning what is worthwhile to put in the struggle for, and learning what it's worthwhile to fight for. But these people are very naturally drawn to that, to find things worth fighting for. And that's what really gives life a lot of its oomph for them. She also had the gift of finding practical, realistic solutions. So people like this are really fantastic at saying, okay, we have this innovative idea, or this kind of head in the clouds, imaginative idea. That's great. We need to bring it down to earth to make it really usable and understandable. So even though she believed in a better future, she believed in something that could be ideal, where there was equality for everybody, she was also very much a realist, and she definitely described herself that way and identified that way. She definitely fought for human rights, for civil rights, but she definitely saw herself as like a down-to-earth, realistic person. She also had the gift of getting like random downloads of inspiration out of nowhere, but not necessarily seeing all the steps to get there. People like this, they'll get like giant chunks of an idea and be like, oh my God, that's amazing. But they really can't describe it or explain it to other people because they don't even know how they would get there. They just see the concept and the idea, kind of like this vision, and they kind of have to just trust that the steps are going to unfold. She was also here to really embrace the power of the body. Probably the power of her lungs, honestly, as a singer, but see like how beautiful and how helpful the body is. And it's not just this like meat sack that we're in, but it's a vehicle that we use to share our gifts with the world and live at our highest expression, and know which way to go too, because our intuitions talk to us through our bodies. She also had single definition, which means that she processed things really, really quickly and probably felt pretty complete on her own and didn't necessarily need like a partner or someone else to come and like kind of fill any sort of gap. And then lastly, she had kitchen's environment. And people with kitchen's environment do really, really well when they can be where the hubbub is, where things are being created, where ideas are being formulated. Like they love that. They pull so much out of that. And with her undefined crown center, she probably got a lot of inspiration from being around other people too. So spending time around other artists would have been really helpful for her. Probably going to lots of shows by other people would have been really helpful for her. Just being around other musicians and other creators would have been like really, really helpful for her. There are some people, honestly, like me, who get a lot from removing themselves from that situation. But for her, it was all about being in it. But that is it. Oh, this is pretty well timed. I'm basically done with my drink. Next time we are covering a reflector, and I have a reflector in mind. Honestly, I kind of prefer to cover someone else, but this one could be interesting too. We'll see. Anyway, that is it for today. I love you. You rock. and I will talk to you next time.